Carpe sanguinum. I've discussed this before, but this is a topic that keeps coming up over and over again online, and so I thought I'd bring it up again as I have some more information. People think that using thermal to do blood tracking is a good idea, and it makes sense from the perspective that blood does have thermal properties, but the thermal properties of fluids are actually kind of problematic. Now, this was the hunt that first got me thinking about this. I've got a hog that's down there and another hog that has been shot and is just pumping out the blood as it runs, as I'm getting video through the IR Hunter Mark III thermal weapon sight. And all the other hogs take off, and the one hog that was pumping blood comes out, gives a final spurt. Boop.
Holy cow, I got two with one shot.
Well, there should be a great blood trail. That hog was pumping out a lot of blood, and we could see it hitting the ground. Here it is again in slow motion. Watch carefully. I mean, you can see the blood staining the ground, and it's leaving a trail behind the hog as it runs, but it's being followed by a lot of other hogs. And it's going to run off to the woods and disappear briefly. I'm repositioning on the rifle. I take a quick look at the other hogs in slow motion. And where's the blood trail? It's not really obvious that it's left the blood trail behind. And then the hog comes out and does its final spurt. Boop. So does thermal work for blood tracking? Generally speaking, the answer is going to be no. And the reason for that is because the blood tends to return to ambient temperature very quickly, and so it becomes invisible very quickly. And the hard to see blood spray that we're actually looking for when we're trying to track animals and having trouble are going to be the smaller droplets. And these smaller droplets are going to be the droplets that return to ambient temperature the absolute quickest. And so where thermal might be the most benefit, and that's going to be for the hard to see blood droplets that are smaller, they're going to be the ones that are also harder to see with thermal, and hence thermal isn't going to be useful for them. Now, this is a good hunt. We're going to actually be able to see the time lapse of the blood disappearing on us. Unfortunately, I don't have good climatic information for this hunt. I am sure that climate comes into play here on how quickly the blood disappears, how hot it is, how much humidity there is, how much wind there is, what the barometric pressure is. It's all going to come into play. All right, these are some small hogs. These are about 40 pounds each. Here we go. Nice shot through and through, leaving a nice blood trail. I've got a hog down, and at 10 seconds you can already see the blood trail starting to disappear. And so I'm just going to go ahead and continue watching this hog and watching the blood trail. Zooming out obviously does not help, so I'm going to zoom back in again. And look how gone it is at 30 seconds. And I'm going to let this run through to a minute so we can get the entire sequence. Just keep watching the blood trail. And as we're coming up on 1 minute, the blood trail has continued to disappear on us.
So just that quickly the blood trail disappeared.
It didn't disappear completely, but it is largely gone. This is a picture taken at 6 seconds just after the hog was shot. And that's at 69 seconds, and the blood trail is nearly completely gone. I used this video back in the day to show how quickly the blood can disappear. This is a coyote that I took at short range. It is a cool evening, not very cold. But I'm going to shoot the coyote. The blood is going to end up on the side of the Suburban, and it's going to disappear very quickly. Alright, here we go. So I've got the second counter going. And just inside of a few seconds, the smallest spots have disappeared completely. The larger spots are a little bit slower to go away, but they're slowly fading as well. And by 20 seconds, they're almost completely gone. Ben and I shot these two hogs. His hog is going to take off running, and I'm going to try to put some additional shots into it. Now it's a warm evening with moderate humidity, and this is one of the few times that I think thermal tracking might work. Alright, we can see the blood trail made by his opening shot. Nice dark spots on the ground just immediately after the shot. Here I'm concentrating on my hog that's doing the curly shuffle, and if you look above, the blood trail has gone from black hot to white cool in just 14 seconds. I think this is going to have to do with the fact that the blood has dropped below the ambient temperature but is evaporating, and so that's going to give a cooling property, and that is why it's showing up as white cool, and it happened very quickly. Here we are 45 minutes later, and you can still kind of make out the trail if you look very closely for it. That's impressive. At an hour and 40 minutes later, the trail is virtually gone, indistinguishable from background noise, and that's usually what we find when trying to track blood with thermal. Now this is my most recent hunt. I've got hogs out there at about 175 yards. It's a cool evening, humidity is also low, and it's only 6:30 at night. I'm going to take this opening shot. The initial hog goes down. I hit this large sow, and she's bleeding out quite a bit. And now it's only 6:38 p.m.
So there's the dead hog. Now we're looking on the ground in front of it for any sign of blood, and we don't see any blood on the ground.
Now that's just 8 minutes later. At this point, I'm abandoning the rifle on the tripod. I'm getting out my cell phone. I'm going to get cell phone video and then show you the images at the same time. What we should be seeing in this image is some blood on the ground here, and also a big splotch of blood on the ground here. And now onto the cell phone.
Alright, we've got the rifle, we've got the pig down, and we've got all of this blood on the ground. Look at the spray. And not a bit of this is showing up on thermal. Here's the shot on the old girl. That'll do.
So is thermal good for finding your downed game? Absolutely. It works very well for actually finding the animal itself. It is not so good for finding blood trails, except in very unusual circumstances, or unless you're extremely quick in getting to the blood trail and following the blood trail to your animal. Otherwise, the blood trail is going to revert to ambient temperature way too quickly. You can actually see an experiment that was done by Batuia's Garage. I'm probably saying that incorrectly, and I apologize. I'll put a link at the end of the video. He did a simulation where he heated up some water and spilled it out over the ground, and then used a loopholed LTO tracker in order to try to find his simulated blood trail across the yard, and it kind of worked, but only for a very short period of time, because the simulated blood very quickly reverted to the ground's ambient temperature and became invisible thermally. As a result, this made the blood largely indistinguishable from the background noise. Carpe sanguinum, my friends.